Okay, for today's video, we are reviewing the Safari Ltd Carnegie Collection Miragaia. This figure I've been wanting to get for a while, so to finally have it, I can't wait to do this review. So, I recently missed out on a few of these on eBay auctions. I'll quickly explain what happened here, just really short. So, there was one listed that was up for like 10 days that I was going to bid on, and then one of my favorite sellers that I bought a ton of stuff from, like this Allosaurus figure that you'll see later in this video, that I bought from that seller. I was going to buy, he listed one that's auction was going to end after that first one, so I decided I'll just try to get that one. And unfortunately, I had the max bid for a while, and then I literally had my max bid at like 70, and my bid was at like 50 forever, and then with like 7 seconds to go, somebody started bidding, and then they put in something over my max bid with like 1 second to go. So literally, I didn't even have enough time to like think to put in another bid, which sucked. But then I ended up looking after that though, I ended up buying another lot, which was a really cool lot. It was a really like a vintage Carnegie lot, which was really cool. Safari Ltd actually reposted the Instagram post about that, so that was really cool. So it kind of like made up for missing out on the Miragaia. And then I made a few offers on some of the currently listed Miragaia, specifically like this one, and I ended up getting it. So it all ended up working out in the end. Unfortunately, this one is in a little worse condition than those other ones that I missed out on, but I did get it for cheaper, so, you know, it kind of is what it is. But yeah, I think it all ended up working out in the end. But yeah, so after missing out on this one, after missing out on a few, I actually ended up getting the one you see here. And this was one of the cheapest ones I've actually seen sell on eBay, but it's not in the best shape, which you all can kind of tell. So we'll just get into the animal information. So Miragaia is a stegosaur with a very long neck compared to other stegosaurs. When being compared to like other stegosaurs, I messed up. Being a stegosaur, it is related to other stegosaurs like Stegosaurus, as well as Carnotaurus, and Kentrosaurus. And out of these, out of that group of four, including Miragaia, Carnotaurus is possibly the closest related to it in a subfamily called Carnotaurinae. But then there's also been some research that has put them a little further away from each other. But like I said, some research has put them in their own separate subfamily. So it just depends on what research you want to use for how closely you would consider Carnotaurus related to Miragaia. But both are stegosaurs nonetheless, so they're both related at least in that capacity. And Miragaia lived during the Jurassic period in Portugal in the Lower Rhine Formation, and possibly in the United States in the Morrison Formation. The one that would possibly have been in the Morrison Formation was originally considered a different stegosaur, but now some people have considered it Miragaia, so it really just depends if you consider, I can't remember what the stegosaur is called, but I think it's maybe Altospinax. But if it is the stegosaur, and if I'm wrong about that, I'll put it in the description of the video. But either Altospinax is either Miragaia or a stegosaur really, really closely related to Miragaia that lived in the Morrison Formation. But Miragaia 100% lived in Portugal in the Lower Rhine Formation, and in that formation it lived with a variety of sauropods and stegosaurs like Carnotaurus, as well as some theropods like Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus. And the Allosaurus that lived in this formation specifically is Allosaurus europus. The reason I mention that is because compared to the two North American species, Europus is actually a little bit smaller. So in this formation, Allosaurus europus might have not been the apex predator, because in this formation, Torvosaurus actually probably was, while in North America, it would have been like very close, and they probably just would have had different niches. But in Portugal, Torvosaurus might have just straight out been the apex predator just due to its size. And luckily, I actually already knew most of the information about Miragaia for this video that I wanted to say, because I recently have already reviewed a Miragaia, in the past month or so, the PNSO Miragaia, which we will talk a lot about in just a little bit. So as far as this figure, I really, really love this figure. I love the colors. They're great. I love the red on the bottom of the neck and the blue. I think the original design for this actually didn't have the blue and it looked all red, but then like some people thought it looked like it was like bleeding or something, so they decided to do with the blue. I think that's what happened, but nonetheless, I love the colors. I love the colors on the neck. That red and blue looks amazing, especially for like a vibrant male figure. And then with the like really cool looking like lightish green with the blackish spots on the top. And really, when I was saying that this figure's not in perfect condition, the only thing really on this one that's really noticeable is the tips of the spikes all have a little bit of paint chippage. And I've noticed some people's that were brand new had a little bit of paint chippage right on the tip of the spike, so it's not the end of the world, just mine's a little worse than some other people's. And you know, if it really, really bothered me, I could always just try to find what exact black paint it was and just cover the tips of the spikes. But honestly, I'm fine with it for now. And you know, knowing how many Carnegie figures I buy and the amount of lots and stuff I buy, I would not be shocked at all if I somehow end up getting another Miragaia in the future. But for right now, I'm completely satisfied with this one in its current condition. And one thing I will note specifically about this Carnegie Miragaia is the neck muscle attachments kind of look a little off to me. And it might be 100% accurate, but it just looks a little off to me. Like it just looks like almost like the neck like just comes straight out. Instead, it feels like there should be just a little bit of musculature right here to, you know, make it seem, I don't know, just not as like, it like almost looks like it's a separate thing to the body. It feels like there should be a little bit more muscle attachment, like on the PNSO. You can see sort of what I mean, where it kind of comes off and like gradually becomes longer. On this one, it's literally like big and thick right here to just super long. And that might actually be accurate, but as far as what I feel like would be more accurate, I think the PNSO is more accurate as far as that. But like I said, that could actually be 100% accurate, and 100% accurate, and the Carnegie could be right. It just kind of looks a little off to me right there. And this figure is actually in a different scale compared to most of the Carnegie models. Most of the Carnegie models are, in general, 140. There's a lot of exceptions, though. There's some figures like some of the Raptors and Oviraptorids are like 110 scale. Then there's a few figures in the 135 scale. There's a bunch, but the majority of the line is in 140 scale, and this figure specifically is in 130 scale. And another figure that came out either the same year or maybe a year before or after, the Carnegie Carnotaurus, is actually also in 130 scale. And I have reviewed this figure on the channel. So yeah, really love these two figures. These are two of the best Carnegie models ever. Two are just the best dinosaur figure models ever made, if you ask me. And it's not surprising. I mean, I think these were made by the same sculptor, and they did amazing. I mean, it's clear as day. These are still, to be like over 10-year-old figures, these are still amazing. And I've seen some interpretations of Miragaia show it has shoulder spikes like the Kentrosaurus, or shoulder spikes or shoulder spines. I've heard it called both. But most of the fossil evidence currently, I think, is leaning towards no shoulder spikes, so plus for the Carnegie for that. But I definitely think there's a chance based off just the classification stuff. But I do believe all the fossil evidence currently shows no shoulder spikes. But I still think there is a possibility just because we don't have a ton of fossil evidence for Miragaia still. And compared to the PNSO, this is going to be the big discussion. So these are the two best Miragaia models, I think, out and that have been out for a while. And it really is tough deciding which one of these two to get for your collection. And I think the Carnegie isn't super inaccurate. I actually think it is pretty accurate, especially for the time. I think when this figure was released, it was as accurate as it could be just due to the lack of fossil evidence we had for Miragaia. But compared to the fossil evidence we know now, it would be a little different looking. And since the PNSO model came out years after, once we had more fossil evidence, I just think it's kind of more accurate just because, you know, we knew more of what Miragaia actually looked like compared to when the Carnegie model was made, when we only had really, really partial remains and we kind of had to just make assumptions. And a lot of the assumptions for the Carnegie model actually ended up being correct, but I still think the PNSO model is probably the more accurate of the two, just because, like I said, they had more fossil evidence, so it would have kind of been unless just PNSO was trying not to be accurate, it would have been honestly hard for them not to be more accurate. So if you are wanting to, so if you're a collector that only wants one specific figure of a specific genus in your collection, I would probably recommend the PNSO. And I love the Carnegie model, but I've got a few reasons. And like I said, I would personally recommend the PNSO, and the reasons why are the figure was made more recently, so it's kind of more accurate. The spines are a little bit bigger, so honestly the spines might be a little too big on the PNSO, but I think it's definitely fair sizes for the PNSO one, and just the amount of spines, or shoulders, or not shoulders, the plates and spines, but I think that's probably the more accurate look. So as far as accuracy, I'd probably give it to PNSO. And then also the price. When the Carnegie model came out, it was cheaper than what the PNSO starting price was. However, this figure has been long retired and has become super popular. And at the time, I think it was, I know it was under a $20 figure, and the PNSO was around a $30-ish figure. So at the time, yeah, the Carnegie model was cheaper, but that time is long gone. The Carnegie model is now a figure that, if you can find it for $60, that's a great price. Even $60 used is a great price. So price-wise, the PNSO definitely has it there as of currently. But like I said, if you could have got the Carnegie model back when it originally released and was in production, it was a lot cheaper. But now the PNSO is a lot cheaper compared to the eBay, Mercari resale prices for the Miragaia. So between the price and the accuracy, if you're only wanting to have one Miragaia in your collection, I would probably get the PNSO. But I still think the Carnegie is a very great figure, and like I said, really the only big knock that I even really have on this figure is just the price and the rarity. It's just such a hard figure to get for a good price and good condition, because you either aren't going to get the figure, you're not going to get it in the best condition, or you're going to pay a ton of money to get it in really good condition. And I kind of went the middle route. I got one in decent condition, but it was still pretty expensive, so you know, it's just kind of is what it is at this point with the Carnegie models. If you want to get them, you're going to have to pay the price. But that's really the only really big negative I have on this figure. And clearly it wasn't a big enough negative to deter me from getting the figure, because I paid around $60 for this figure and it wasn't even in perfect condition. But as far as dinosaur documentaries that Miragaia has been featured in, Miragaia is the only documentary I'm aware of it being featured in is Dinosaur Revolution, which I really do like the episode it's in, but it has the shoulder spikes, so sort of an inaccuracy, but maybe not, you know, depending on until we get more fossil evidence of Miragaia, but based off the current fossil evidence, I would say no shoulder spine. And I guess now we'll go over the featured figures. So obviously, or I'll do like a little more views of this figure before I go into the featured figures. There might be a slight warpage on the tail on mine too, just because I don't know exactly how the original owner of this kept it, like how they kept it like in like storage. But like the back spines look fine. Maybe the tail spikes might be a little warped, but overall I think this figure is in very good condition. But yeah, we'll go over the featured figures. So we'll go with the Carnegie models first. So this is the Carnegie Collection Miragaia. This is the Carnegie Collection Allosaurus. This is the Carnegie Collection Carnotaurus. This is the Pterobibitat Dawsontrurus. This is the Safari Ltd Kentrosaurus. This is the PNSO Miragaia. This is actually a lot of figures I've reviewed. I'll mention really after I show off all these figures, specific videos that you can see these in again. This is the Carnegie Stegosaurus, which is actually, I didn't realize how similar of a color scheme. It is very, very similar to the PNSO Miragaia. So yeah, this is the older Carnegie Stegosaurus. They never really made a super updated version of it. They made an updated version of it in color, but as far as just the figure itself, they didn't really make an updated model. But wow, I did not realize how similar of a color scheme. They're both that orange with like the almost tiger stripe-esque look. I think it definitely looks better on the PNSO figure, but still, I did not realize how similar the color schemes were on these two figures. But yeah, so the Carnegie Stegosaurus and PNSO Miragaia, and then last but not least, the Pterobibitat Ceratosaurus. So that's all the featured figures in this video, so I will quickly mention some of the videos. So I have reviewed the Kentrosaurus, the Carnegie Carnotaurus, the PNSO Miragaia, and like I said, I was trying to get this Miragaia from the seller I bought this Allosaurus in a lot from, so I'll put a link to that video. And then I also mentioned the lot that I bought on the same day when I tried to win one of these figures. So I'll put a link to that older Carnegie lot as well that Safari Ltd reposted, which was super awesome. But overall, I do really think this is a really great figure. Not surprising, though, with it being one of the later Carnegie models. And if you've seen my channel before, you know I'm a huge fan of the Carnegie line, especially those last few year models. That, like, 2008-ish, 2010-ish to 2015, those are some of the best dinosaur figure models ever made. Well, prehistoric animal models, because there's, like, the Ichthyosaurus as well. But I will continue to say that. So, if you get a chance to pick up any of those Carnegie models in that range, you should definitely do it because they are some of the best figures ever. And I'm still trying to complete the set. I think I've got I know I have less than 20 I need to get to complete this set. And whenever I do, I'll have a big, huge video about the Carnegie collection as a whole. And I can't wait for that. Just hopefully we end up getting that line. It is a pretty hard line to get, and it's definitely not for everyone, but I'm really enjoying it. So, like I said, overall, this is a really great figure, and it's not surprising. And while it can be very expensive, it can definitely be worth it for the right collector. And for me personally, it was. And this is a figure I've wanted to get for a long time. Not only because it helped complete my Carnegie collection, but it's just a really great standalone figure that I've wanted for a while. And after getting this figure that I've wanted, and after getting it, and the PNSO Miragaia, I can 100% say Miragaia is one of my top 2 favorite stegosaurs. It already kind of was, but this kind of just cements it. It and Kentrosaurus are my top 2 favorite stegosaurs, and I don't see that changing for a while. So thank you all so much for watching, and if you want to see any more videos, you can subscribe and stuff. And thank you all so much for watching. I've got a bunch of other really cool Carnegie stuff coming up, and I have a ton of Carnegie stuff already up on the channel. So thank you all for watching, and I am out.